Hello friends, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Mark, and let's get right into drawing white on black. Now typically we draw with a graphite pencil on white paper like you see here. Actually, I'm sorry, that's a trick. I actually reversed that image. What I really drew was a white pencil on black board, and that's reverse drawing, and it helps you to reverse your thinking when you're drawing, like I'm doing right here with this sphere demo. Now I'm just taking a basic primary shape and making a sphere, but you can see that instead of starting with the shadow of the sphere on the bottom right, I actually have to start with the highlight of the sphere on the top left. And using a white charcoal pencil and a blender and an eraser, I can actually carve out and draw in the highlights instead of the shadows. Exactly the same thing underneath it, where the shadow is showing the paper underneath instead of drawing the shadow with a pencil. So I actually have to draw in the surface of the table that this sphere is hovering over and leave that shadow alone. I could put in a little bit of a kind of a smudge in there just to give a gradation, but overall I let the paper shine through and use that as the shadow. So it's kind of all in reverse. Normally with a graphite pencil, I would draw the shadow and I would draw the shadow on the sphere, but here it's reversed. And I love this kind of drawing. It's such a breakaway from traditional drawing, and it's such a deviation from the routine of how I normally draw. So it gets me thinking differently, it gets my brain charged, and it really gets me motivated to draw this way. I love drawing like this on different colored papers and using different tools. And that's what I want to talk about next, is the different tools we can use to draw white on black, right after this break. So let's have some fun and look at some other tools that you can use to draw on a black board or colored paper. Like this General's brand charcoal pencil was a lot of fun to do that sphere. But let's look at this white China marker from Sharpie. I used to use a black version of this when I worked in a steel shop. We would mark up the steel for cutting, and then once it was cut, we could just wipe it off with a cloth, and it was never a problem, whereas a Sharpie might stay a little bit too permanent. Now this is a white colored pencil from Prismacolor Premier, and you can see the payout between the white China marker, which is a high pigment white wax, and the colored pencil are very similar. The China marker is a lot more intense because it's more pure wax. Now this is a DERWENT watercolor pencil, and it pays out really well, and all three of them blend pretty well, but you can see that the water, once I apply that to the watercolor pencil, it doesn't really do much to help this kind of a drawing. It might be good for maybe just blending out some areas, but overall I wouldn't recommend using water with a blackboard. It doesn't really do much to, to highlight the picture. Now here's some white gel pens. I have a Jelly Roll and I have a Uni-Ball Signo. Now the Signo is very disappointing because when I tried to use it, it's like a roller ball, and it stuttered a lot and it was hard to get the white gel ink out. Whereas this Jelly Roll was really smooth, fine point, and really just reliable. Here again, I'm trying to use the Signo, but I'm having a tough time getting this ink out. So when I apply water, you can see that the Jelly Roll breaks down a little, whereas the Signo breaks down a lot. It took a lot more water and a lot more pressure to get them both to really break down all the way. But you can see that, again, applying water is not really of any benefit. Now here, this is my Newman's Own Ginger Mint tin, which I love these things. But in here I keep 3 Rembrandt soft pastels. And I want to use this white one to see how this holds up. And I kind of know already it's going to act a lot like the charcoal pencil. It's going to blend really easy, you can see that. And even with my finger I can just move it around. With white colored pencil on top I can blend it. The colored pencil doesn't blend too much, but the you can see how I can move that around with the blender. Now I kind of predicted that it would break down under water, which it did. Now this is a Craft Smart white paint pen. Didn't know this about these, I haven't used these much before, but boy, this was a treat because the payout on this was really bright white and it was really smooth. Really nice to use on this blackboard. I could see doing a lot of drawings with this. I'm going to investigate and see if they have other sizes too. Now putting charcoal down on here and seeing how it blends, it worked just fine in covering over that. The colored pencil, same thing, the payout was really nice, and the Jelly Roll, you can draw right over it. Now, it doesn't break down underwater at all, which was a real benefit to me, saying, maybe you can do some water-based stuff with it as well. Now these here, these are 3 sizes. These are white permanent markers from Sharpie. The big problem with these was the ink that comes out of them was a little bit transparent. It wasn't fully opaque. And you can see, you can kind of tell that there's like a grayness to it. And when I put the other products over it, they were brighter than these Sharpies. So the payout was very low on these. And water broke down even the Sharpie. I expected them to be more permanent, but they weren't. So that was for the thinnest version. When I look at this, I say, geez, you know, I'm not sure if I'd want to use this. They stayed behind even though the water broke them down a little bit, but I was wondering how the thicker versions were going to work too. So here I'm going to try this thicker version and see if this has a higher pigment. And it does. The ink in this one is a little bit stronger, and the thicker one, you can see there's just a ton. I actually poured out a little bit too much on purpose just to see how it would look. And once it dried, I tried to use the colored pencil and the charcoal to see how they would blend in the jelly roll. The thicker version with all that ink just scratched right off, so it was really not any advantage to that. Water broke down the other products over the Sharpie, and you can see it kind of made the thicker version a little bit milky, which didn't really do much for me. But they're fun to use, and I really like the thicker Sharpie for that. Now this is Windsor Newton White Gouache, which I used to use all the time, especially when I'm doing watercolor paintings. This is great for adding highlights, but because it's a white watercolor paint, it's an opaque watercolor paint, I kind of have familiarity with this, and I expected the results that I got, which is really nice looking on blackboard. You can do little kind of fine details, and because it's gouache, you can use water with it. It's intended for water use, and it will break down, but it probably won't break down too much. And if you can see here, once I put the other products over it, we'll see how they handle as well. So we'll do the charcoal, the jelly roll, and the white colored pencil. And you can see once I start adding water to it, the other products break down right away, but the gouache actually holds up pretty well over time. It took a lot of pressure to really activate that gouache and make it blend out. So white gouache is always a go-to when using blackboard. You can do a lot of things with the white gouache. Now, just for fun, I wanted to try a couple of weird things. Now, this is Wite Out or correction fluid, and you know, it got a little sticky here, and I wasn't really happy with it. This is the Wite Out EZCorrect correcting tape, and I wanted to see how that was. It was actually really cool, and when I applied the blender, it gave it almost a stressed look to it, or an antique look, which I really liked. So here I'm going to use other products on top of it, Sharpie, jelly roll, and just see how water reacts to that too. So water didn't really break down any of these products, the whiteout or anything, so you can use those. And lastly, I want to try some tooth whitening toothpaste. It's Rembrandt, of course, art related, but I don't expect much from this because this is just kind of a silly thing to try to see, just curious to see how it reacts. So I'm using a toothpaste, which I've actually used in the past for other pictures. I used toothpaste to do highlights in a picture where I had a lot of black colored pencil, and the toothpaste actually made a nice highlight. Now this, you can see, obviously is breaking down very quickly with water, and it actually suds up a little bit, which is good for your teeth when you're brushing your teeth. So how can we use these in a practical application? Well, I got this, it's a black sketchbook, I guess. It wasn't very expensive, and you can see here there's all the details for it. But I wanted to see how all of these different products would go together in one drawing on this, you know, fairly inexpensive black paper. It's not blackboard, it's just paper. Will it buckle? Will it respond? How are things going to blend or smudge? So I'm going to start the whole thing off using the Sharpie. And I was very happy with the payout of it. The Craft Smart pen was really, really nice to use. I really like that Craft Smart pen, especially when working with black. The jelly roll worked really well. I decided not to use the Uni-Ball too much, but I did try it a little bit. Just not happy with the Uni-Ball right now, so I'm going to kind of stick with my jelly rolls. The pastels and the charcoal pencil worked fantastic, especially the pastel. And you can see there I used the watercolor pencil a little bit and was able to just kind of put a little bit on, and it actually gave me a nice watery effect, almost a milky effect. So that's something that I can use in the future where I can use that white colored pencil, the white watercolor pencil, and get certain effects from that. So that's to my advantage. So was this worth trying all these different products and trying to see how they all work out? Absolutely. It's really fun, and I'm having a blast assembling this whole illustration here to see just how it's all coming together. The white gouache allowed me to put dots and just details in there. Again, I'm going back over it with this Craft Smart pen just to brighten up some areas, and it looks really, really great. Now here I'm going to use the toothpaste on the outside of it just to get sort of a cloudy white effect on that hat. I was thinking black and white. Honestly, I was thinking marriages and wedding invitations, and I thought, oh, I'll do a picture called The Newlyweds, which is what I call this. But it was just silly and fun, and I had a great time doing it. So what's coming up next for my next video? I'm going to be reviewing these Arteza Premium Real Brush Pens, and I have some students that I did some work with, and we'll see what they think about it as well. So thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I'd love to bring you more content. And if you like the music you hear, I offer it for free over at Noise Trade, where you can just use a zip code and get free music. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. God bless.